Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Imagine this. You arrive at work, maybe try to log on remotely, and suddenly everything just grinds to a halt. And I don't mean a small glitch.
Yeah.
I mean a real catastrophe. Maybe a big cyber attack or a sudden natural disaster, something that just stops the whole organization cold. In those moments, it's terrifying, right? The focus shifts dramatically. It's not about preventing anymore. It's about, well, sheer survival, keeping things going. And that massive shift, that's exactly where resilience comes in. It's like the key measure of how well an organization can take that hit and still deliver its essential services. Okay, let's unpack this. This brings us straight to business continuity and disaster recovery. These are the strategic blueprints for survival, for rebuilding when things go really wrong. Now, in our last deep dive, we explored the cyber battlefield, incident response, threat hunting. We talked about defenses. But look, even with the best defenses, disruptions, they happen. It's just reality. So, for this deep dive, here's our mission. We're going to nail down the difference between BCP and DR. We'll look at the toolkit for getting data back. We'll outline what goes into a solid recovery plan and really stress why testing and building a culture of resilience are so vital. We want to equip you, our listener, for that worst-case scenario.
Indeed, and it's fascinating because for any organization today, you're facing everything from, really sophisticated cyber threats targeting your network perimeters to severe weather that can take out physical sites. So having a robust, resilient strategy, it's not just a good practice, it's fundamental. It's a duty to your employees, your customers, your stakeholders, everyone who depends on you. So yeah, this deep dive will get into the technical details. Good stuff for students, tech enthusiasts. We'll assume you've got a decent grasp of basic tech concepts already, and we'll really dig into the practical side of rebuilding.
Great. Let's dive right in then with something that often causes, well, a bit of confusion. BCP and DR, business continuity planning and disaster recovery. People tend to use them interchangeably, but they're distinct, right? Hugely important distinction. So let's kick off there. What is the fundamental difference between business continuity planning and disaster recovery? And why does getting that distinction right matter so much for strategy?
That's the perfect place to start because, yeah, understanding this difference is absolutely foundational. So business continuity planning, BCP. Think of this as the big picture. The holistic, strategic plan for keeping the business running during a major disruption. It's really about organizational endurance. We're looking at the whole enterprise, the people, the critical processes, the actual business functions. The core question BCP tries to answer is, how do we keep operating, keep serving customers if our main offices or systems are down? It's about maintaining those essential services, maybe in a different way, maybe scaled back, but keeping the business alive.
Okay, keeping the business alive, the big picture strategy.
Exactly. Think of prepping for a major hurricane. BCP is the plan for, say, a grocery store chain. How do they keep essential stores open as long as possible beforehand? Maybe boarding up windows, firing up generators for the fridges and checkouts. And it's also the plan for maybe having staff work from a safe, temporary spot to handle online orders or customer service calls while the storm hits. It's all about the continuity of operations no matter what's happening with the tech underneath.
Got it. So BCP is the umbrella strategy for survival. Then how does disaster recovery, DR, fit underneath that umbrella? Is that more about fixing the broken tech?
Precisely. You nailed it. Disaster recovery, DR, is essentially a subset of BCP. It's the technical plan, laser-focused on restoring the IT infrastructure and the data after the disaster has struck. This is where, the computer science folks, the network engineers, the database admins, this is their playbook. The key question for DR is very specific. How do we get our servers, our networks, our applications, and our critical data back online? It's all about the tech, stack hardware, software, and crucially, the data's integrity and availability.
Okay, so BCP keeps the business running. DR gets the tech running again.
Exactly. Continuing the hurricane analogy, storms past. DR is the detailed checklist for assessing the damage to the IT systems. How do we get power back to the server room? How do we reestablish network links? How do we restore databases from backups? Get those critical apps working fully again? It's the technical roadmap for bringing the digital core back online. So BCP sets the mission business endurance. DR provides the technical tactics to achieve that by recovering the IT. They absolutely have to work together. DR serves BCP's goals.
That makes the distinction super clear. BCP for business survival, DR for tech revival. Okay, building on that. The ability to recover, especially data, hinges completely on backups, right? Without good backups, DR is pretty much impossible. So what are the main backup strategies organizations use? What's in that essential recovery toolkit? And what are the pros and cons of each approach?
Critical question. Because, effective recovery starts way before the disaster. It starts with how you back up your data. There are basically three fundamental ways organizations tackle this. First up, the full backup. Simple concept. It copies everything you've selected, all of it.
Okay, straightforward.
Yeah, the big pro is simplicity, easy to manage, and restoration is usually fastest because you just need that one full set. But the cons are significant. It takes the longest time to run, copying everything, and it eats up the most storage space. Imagine copying terabytes every night.
Yeah, that sounds slow and expensive storage-wise. What else?
Then you've got the incremental backup. This one's much smarter about daily operations. It only copies data that's changed since the last backup. Whatever type that was, could be the last full, could be the last incremental.
Ah, so just the changes.
Exactly, just the deltas. So the pros are speed and storage. It's super fast to run each day, uses very little space. But, and this is a big but, restoration is the slowest and most complex. To get everything back, you need the last full backup plus every single incremental backup taken since then, all in the correct order. If just one of those incrementals is bad or missing,
The whole chain breaks.
the whole chain breaks. Your recovery might just fail completely. It's efficient day to day, but potentially fragile when you need it most. A bit of a headache during recovery.
Okay, so fast backup, slow and risky restore. What's the third option?
The third is the differential backup. This one tries to find a middle ground. It copies all the data that has changed since the last full backup.
Ah, so not since the last backup, but since the last full one.
Precisely. That's the key difference from incremental. So every differential backup includes all changes since the last full, the pros.
Yeah.
It's faster to back up than a full. And restoration is way faster and simpler than incremental because you only need two things: the last full backup and the last differential backup.
Okay, that sounds like a good balance.
It often is. The trade-off is it's slower to run than an incremental, and it uses more storage space than incremental because it grows bigger each day until the next full backup resets it.
Right, because it keeps copying all changes since the last full.
Exactly. It accumulates those changes. And, something really critical to add here, especially with ransomware being such a huge threat, is immutable backups.
Ah, yes. Tell us about those.
These are backups designed so they cannot be changed or deleted for a set period, not even by an administrator, not by malware. It's like a locked vault for your data. This adds a crucial layer, ensuring you have a clean copy to restore from, even if your main systems and maybe even other backups get compromised. It's becoming almost non-negotiable.
That's a fantastic point. Immutable backups add that extra layer of certainty.
Yeah.
So often we see a mix, right? Like a full backup weekly, maybe Sunday night, then daily differentials or incrementals the rest of the week.
Yeah, that's a very common strategy. Organizations weigh the pros and cons, the speed of backup, the storage costs, the complexity of restore, and choose the mix that fits their specific risk tolerance and operational needs.
Okay, understanding backups is step one, but just having backups isn't enough. You need a plan. When the worst happens, how do you actually put the pieces back together systematically? What are the absolute must-have elements in a detailed recovery plan?
Right. This moves us into the disaster recovery plan, DRP itself. And this isn't just, a vague idea. It's a detailed step-by-step technical document. It's the playbook for the IT team during a crisis. But here's what's really crucial. The most important targets in that plan, the key metrics, they aren't set by IT in a vacuum. They have to be defined by the business.
Okay, so the business dictates the technical targets. Like what?
Like the recovery point objective, or RPO, this answers a fundamental business question. How much data can we really afford to lose? It sets the maximum acceptable age of the data you recover.
So how far back in time can the recovered data be?
Exactly. From a technical computer science standpoint, your RPO directly tells you how often you need to back up and what kind of tech you might need. If the business says the RPO is 24 hours, okay, backups at least daily. But the real eye-opener for businesses isn't just the definition. It's realizing that every minute you go past that RPO target has a real, often surprisingly high cost. Lost transactions, reputational hits, maybe even fines. It forces a hard look at what's the actual impact of losing X hours of data.
That forces a really practical conversation.
Absolutely. And if the business says we can't lose more than 15 minutes of data, maybe for financial trading systems or something critical, well, that demands a totally different technical solution. Maybe continuous data replication, synchronous mirroring across networks, much more complex, much more expensive than just daily backups. The business need drives the tech spec and the cost.
That connection is crystal clear. RPO sets the data loss limit. What about the other side of the coin? How fast do we need things back up and running? What's the recovery time objective?
Right. The recovery time objective, RTO, tackles exactly that. How quickly must we be back online? This metric defines the maximum acceptable downtime for a system, an application, or a business function after disaster strikes.
So how long can we afford to be offline?
Pretty much. If your main system crashes network failure, hardware goes poof. How long can the business realistically cope before that system is operational again? Like RPO, the RTO dictates the kind of recovery infrastructure you need, the network design. For instance, an RTO of 4 hours is pretty demanding. It means the entire recovery process, declaring the disaster, failing over, getting systems running, reconfiguring networks, everything has to happen within 4 hours.
Wow, that's tight.
It is. And achieving that probably means you need more than just backups. You might need a fully redundant hot site, maybe active data centers where systems are already running and mirrored, ready to take over almost instantly using sophisticated network routing and load balancing. A longer RTO, say 48 hours, might let you get away with a cold site recovery, where you have space but need to bring in and set up equipment. It's much cheaper, but much slower.
So RTO drives the infrastructure investment.
Absolutely. And beyond RPO and RTO, the DRP itself will have all the gritty details. Step-by-step procedures for failover, the exact sequence for bringing servers back online, detailed data restoration steps, and really clear communication protocols for the technical team doing the work. Who calls who, when, about what.
It's clear RPO and RTO aren't just tech specs, they're business decisions with major technical implications. But even the best DRP, written down with all those details, it's just theory until you test it, isn't it? So why is testing these plans so incredibly important? What are the different ways you can actually go about validating them?
You absolutely hit the nail on the head, an untested plan. It's not really a plan, it's just a theory, maybe even wishful thinking. The only way to know if your BCP and DR plans will actually work under pressure is to test them regularly, rigorously.
It's not a one-off checkbox exercise.
Not at all. It's an ongoing cycle. You test, you find problems, you fix the plan, you test again. We usually start simple with tabletop exercises.
Okay, what are those?
These are basically structured discussions. The response team gets together maybe around a conference table, and a facilitator walks them through a simulated disaster scenario. Like, okay, team, scenario is major ransomware attack has encrypted our primary servers. Then everyone talks through their actions based on the plan. Who declares the disaster? Who contacts law enforcement? What's the communication plan? Which systems get recovered first? What data sources do we use? It's all discussion-based.
I see. Low cost, low risk, good for finding obvious gaps or confusion in the plan itself.
Exactly. They're great for ironing out the initial kinks and making sure everyone understands their roles, at least theoretically.
But talking about it is one thing. What's the next step up?
That's where walkthroughs or simulations come in. These are more hands-on. Team members actually do some of their assigned tasks, usually in a test environment, not on the live systems.
Like actually restoring a server.
Yeah, exactly. The IT team might actually restore a non-critical server from backup onto a test machine, or they might practice failing over a test application to the secondary data center, checking network connectivity, verifying data sync. It moves from just talking to actually performing key steps.
Getting some practical experience.
Right. And then you have the most comprehensive test. Full-scale simulations. These are the big ones. The most thorough and, frankly, the most expensive and disruptive to plan.
This sounds serious.
It is. It involves simulating a real disaster as closely as possible. This could mean actually failing over critical production systems to your secondary site, maybe one in a different city, and trying to run key business operations from there for a while. I remember one company doing this. They discovered during the test that their redundant network connection to the backup site actually ran through the same physical pipe underground as their primary connection for the last mile.
Oh, wow. Not so redundant then.
Not at all. A single backhoe could take out both. They never would have found that without a full-scale test that forced them to rely on that secondary link. These tests reveal those kinds of brutal but incredibly valuable truths. It's where the plan meets reality under pressure.
That's a perfect example. It really shows how testing isn't just about checking boxes. It's about finding those hidden flaws. Ultimately, doing these tests regularly builds that muscle memory you mentioned earlier. So when a real crisis hits, and eventually the team isn't scrambling or panicking, they're executing a plan they've practiced, they know the steps, it makes a chaotic situation manageable.
Precisely. It turns theory into capability.
Okay, let's widen the lens a bit now. We've talked tech, plans, testing, but real resilience. That's not just an IT thing, is it?
Yeah.
Or something handled by one BCP manager. It needs to be part of the organization's DNA, its culture. So beyond the plans and procedures, How do organizations actually build that culture of resilience?
Yeah.
How do they weave BCP and DR into how they operate every day?
That's the leap from just having plans to truly being resilient. And you're right, it has to be cultural. It absolutely starts at the top, with executive buy-in and sponsorship. Resilience planning cannot be just an IT initiative bubbling up from below. It needs clear, visible support from the C-suite. When leaders actively champion BCP and DR, when they allocate proper funding and resources, it signals to everyone, this matters. This is critical to our survival and success.
That's the priority for the whole company.
Exactly. Without that top-level commitment, even the best technical plans can wither on the vine from lack of resources or attention when push comes to shove.
Okay, so leadership sets the tone. But an organization has lots of different parts. How do you make sure resilience thinking spreads beyond IT?
That requires genuine cross-functional involvement. Resilience isn't just about servers and networks, it's about the business processes they support. So you need input from every major department. Think about it. HR needs plans for employee safety, communication, maybe emergency payroll. Finance needs to ensure cash flow, vendor payments. Legal worries about compliance during a crisis. Operations needs to know how its core functions will continue. Communications needs a crisis comms plan.
Everyone has a piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. Each department has to identify its own critical functions, its dependencies on IT, on suppliers, on people, and feed that into the overall BCP. Our complex IT systems, even AI-driven ones, they exist to serve human processes. Getting everyone involved ensures the plan is holistic and covers the real business needs, not just the tech recovery in isolation. It prevents major blown spots.
That makes total sense. The tech serves the business, so the whole business has to be part of the plan. What about the average employee? How do you make sure everyone knows what to do?
That comes down to regular training and awareness. It's not enough for just the response team to know the plan. All employees need some level of awareness. They should know the basics. What happens if the office is inaccessible? Where do they find emergency updates? Who do they contact? Maybe basic procedures for working remotely if needed. How will communication work if normal channels are down? Often this means using alternative platforms, maybe cloud-based tools they don't use daily.
So everyone becomes part of the resilience strategy.
Exactly. When everyone understands their small role, even if it's just knowing where to get information, it reduces confusion and potential panic during an event. It makes the entire workforce an active part of the solution, not just passive bystanders waiting for instructions. Their preparedness can make a huge difference in how smoothly things go.
And that really brings it full circle. Treating resilience not as a project you finish, but as a continuous program, something that's constantly reviewed, updated, practiced. That's how you build a culture that can genuinely adapt and endure whatever comes its way. It's about vigilance, adaptation, and shared responsibility.
What's fascinating here is the complete picture we've built. While we rightly invest so much in preventing incident cybersecurity, robust infrastructure, a truly mature organization accepts that disruptions will happen. You prepare for the probable, yes, but also for the possible. And that resilience is built on two pillars. A strategic foresight of business continuity planning, focusing on endurance, keeping those critical functions going. And that's supported by the technical precision of a disaster recovery plan, designed for rebuilding the IT backbone, the systems, the networks, the data, and underpinning all of that. Robust backup strategies, full, incremental, differential, and increasingly, those crucial immutable backups. All defined and driven by what the business truly needs, captured in those metrics. RPO, how much data loss is tolerable, and RTO, how much downtime is tolerable.
A really comprehensive framework.
It is. But, as we stressed, a plan just sitting on a shelf. Pretty useless. It only becomes a real capability through that relentless cycle of testing. Tabletops to discuss, walkthroughs to practice, full simulations to truly validate under pressure. That's what turns paper into preparedness. And ultimately, that preparedness isn't just a technical state, it's a cultural trait. It's fostered by leadership, yes, but it has to be embraced across every department, making resilience everyone's business.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner? I think the core takeaway from this deep dive is this. It's that unwavering commitment. Commitment to preparation, commitment to practice. That's what transforms an organization. It stops it from being, a brittle structure that just shatters under pressure and turns it into something truly resilient, something that can bend, adapt, recover, and ultimately thrive, no matter what kind of storm it faces. That was an incredibly insightful deep dive into staying resilient. Really crucial stuff. Make sure you tune in for our next deep dive. We'll be flipping the script and exploring offensive security, testing your defenses, going on the attack to find weaknesses. Thank you so much for joining us today for this essential discussion. If you found this deep dive valuable, please do subscribe to Tech AI and Beyond. Keep expanding your knowledge, stay ahead of the curve in this constantly evolving world of technology.